Yesterday, Nvidia announced, well, basically nothing at their SIGGRAPH special address. At least, it was nothing if you are a gamer. And if you follow Nvidia, you probably are a gamer. Indeed, although their SIGGRAPH outro video wanted to give you the impression that they are some sort of futuristic Star Trek company, their earnings don't lie. They are firmly a gaming, and dare I say, an Ethereum mining company first and foremost. And as much as Nvidia wants, or honestly I'll say needs, their investors on Wall Street to believe they're some sort of pioneering self-driving and AI and, I don't know, magic DNA robot arm company or whatever the hell this is supposed to be, the fact is they get their money from gaming, and gaming is crashing from a recession and, well, of course, the Ethereum mining crash that's allowing gamers to buy tons of used cards on the market. And of course, also, then the Ethereum crash is making it so miners in the others and OEM category are buying less cards from Nvidia as well at double the price they would usually be sold at. It's all there in Nvidia's earnings, or really the early warning that their earnings won't be great that they put out before earnings so they don't shock their investors like Intel did, which was an ill-advised decision. You always want to give your investors a heads up so it doesn't look like you're hiding things from them. And hey, look, Nvidia's earnings look like they're probably going to be bad. They definitely aren't great, but honestly, it's not the worst. Nvidia's actual earnings are coming out in a couple weeks, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I do have to say that if you look at their earnings, they are still up year over year, and this is nowhere near comparable to the situation Intel is in. I've seen a lot of people say that Nvidia just reported earnings like how Intel did. No, what Intel has reported is that they are going down and that their brakes have been broken and they're not sure how they're going to stop their disastrous car, whereas Nvidia basically hit a speed bump and, well, they are doing what they need to get over that bump with as little damage as possible. But the car itself, the car is running fine. Nvidia is running fine, and that's predominantly what I want to talk about today. What Nvidia is doing this year behind the scenes with their Ampere Oversupply and the Lovelace stock they want to launch in a channel flooded with Ampere cards to keep their earnings up, because it really is quite interesting. Now, basically what I'm going to do then is add on to what I started talking about last week, where I reiterated that Lovelace is launching this year for sure, that at least the 4090 is confirmed to be launching in October as of now, and that I was even hearing rumblings that Nvidia might launch the 4080 and 4070. These cards below the RTX 4090 could launch this year, but they haven't been given the green light yet because Nvidia and Nvidia's partners want confidence that they will be through almost all of the high-end Ampere stock before they commit to launching them. And, well, if we actually look on EVGA's website, we can see they're kind of getting there. Just a couple weeks ago, the 3090 Ti was dropped to $1,500 in official MSRP. And as I've covered on this channel, EVGA just priced all of their 3090 Ti models, water-cooled or not, at $1,500, and a lot of them have started selling through, especially when they started pricing them down to ridiculous prices like $1,150, $1,000 below what they were priced at just a few months ago. And that model's gone. And indeed, if you look, some of the pricing on 3090 Ti's is starting to go back up. And if you go through EVGA's website, you can see that Nvidia really isn't helping them much with the 3070s, and the 3080s and some other models are starting to drift back up as well. And seeing this happen in front of my eyes, I got the courage to really push some of my sources to allow me to elaborate on what Nvidia is doing behind the scenes to alleviate their Ampere oversupply issues and to make sure their earnings look good by the end of the year. You see, I am told directly that what Nvidia did when there was what I called an AIB revolt is step in and buy up a bunch of GA102 stockpiles that AIBs were on the hook for making cards with. Nvidia would take these GA102 dies and find something to do with them, and in the meantime, AIBs were still expected then to buy up a ton of Lovelace stock so Nvidia could hit their numbers before the end of the year, and that's happened. Now, it doesn't mean AIBs are entirely out of the woods. They still have a ton of GA104 stock to sell through, and I have some indications that there will be lower prices maybe towards the end of this month, but after August, prices may actually go back up. And another source directly confirmed that the channel is already starting to run out of 3090s and 3090 Ti's, and that then they will aggressively try to get rid of 3080 Ti's and 3080s. But after that, it's just going to be a waiting game for everything below $600 to sell through before Nvidia launches the mid-range. And so in late August is when many of my sources expect the most aggressive pricing actions to kick in from actually both AMD and Nvidia if there's still a lot of inventory left over. Nvidia can still stomach going a bit lower in price around then if they need to, but also I'm told that AMD isn't going to get that much cheaper. I can't really elaborate much on that, but basically AMD is just allowing pricing to drop wherever it goes. And so once some of these models like the $250 RX 6600 sell through, that's it. You missed your chance to get it. And so again, let me really be specific on why I thought it would be important for me to come out today and give you guys this update, adding on to something I've somewhat already told you. The first reason is that it really would not surprise me if the crash slowed down in the new market. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the used market's going to continue to keep crashing because I've honestly still heard most of the mining cards haven't hit the used market yet. And whether you want to buy used mining cards or not, I don't really care. That will affect the pricing. But the new market, that market might actually start going back up after August. And so all I'm saying is if you're someone who buys the best, yeah, it makes sense to wait for RDNA 3 and Lovelace. But if you're someone who's looking to do a budget build this year, I don't know. If you see an RX 6600 going for close to $230 or a 6700 10 gigabyte get close to $350, or other weird options appear, like for example, a weird triple slot RTX 2060 6 gigabyte that seems to be getting close to $200. If the 6600 hits below $250, if the 6700 10 gigabyte hits $350 or lower, and if the 2060 gets to around $200, I don't think you're going to do much better than that for an entry-level or budget graphics card purchase for a very long time. Remember, there's literally going to be less GA102 in this channel soon. And while that isn't being used in cards that everyone wants, like the 3070, cheaper GA102 cards does push down 3070 and 3070 Ti pricing to a certain degree. Those are going to clear up. And again, I've already leaked that AMD is very unlikely to launch the RX 7600 XT this year to desktop. And so, yeah, that $400 super budget 8 gigabyte card, that might not be here for like a year. And if it's not here for a year or even half a year, that means a $350 or cheaper 10 gigabyte 6700, even if it's weaker. I just think that's the best you're going to do below $400 for a while. Once those new inventory options clear up, you're stuck shopping on the used market, which frankly is fine most of the time, in my opinion. I actually just got a used RTX 3090 model myself, a weird one, the MSI AERO. Yeah, the Fermi edition of the RTX 3090. I haven't seen any reviews for this thing online, and I think it was an incredibly limited run. So a little bit of a reason I got it was curiosity, to be honest. But also, it was a 3090 that actually fit in my small workstation, one that I have no intention of ever upgrading to be bigger, and I got it for $800 a month ago. So yeah, I want to talk about now, briefly, if I'm happy with this decision and if I think buying a card like this is really a bad option, in addition to then confirming when I think Nvidia is going to launch the RTX 4080 and 4070, because I actually do think I have a very good idea of what would make Nvidia launch it this year and when that would be. But first, an ad from a sponsor. All right then, Reese, you said you had an investment idea? Let's see. Yeah, Reese, unfortunately, I don't think right now is a good time to invest in graphics cards. Reese here is not the best at investing, but honestly, who can blame her? It's intimidating, and historically, most people, and mammals in general, are locked out of the stuff only the richest people get priority access to, like blue chip art, Well, until today. Today's piece of content is sponsored by Masterworks. Masterworks is the platform for investing in contemporary blue chip art that before recently was typically only accessible to the ultra wealthy. Billionaires have been quietly investing their portfolios with art for years, and now Masterworks is allowing investors like you and me and Reese here to get in on it as well. And the good news is that it's one of the highest performing alternative assets in recent history that's proven to be a pretty good hedge against inflation as well, which a lot of hot tech stocks cannot claim the same recently. Become a distinguished art collector like Reese here, and well, there would usually be a wait list to sign up, but with my code on screen and in the description, you can skip the line and start investing today. Clicking on this link below helps the channel tremendously, and it's a great way just to show support for the channel, in addition to showing support for your future wealth that is usually only accessible to the ultra wealthy. Support Moore's Law is dead and support your future savings with Masterworks today. All right, I am going to get to the RTX 4080 and 4070 launches, what I'm fairly confident Nvidia is going to do. But first, I do think it's important for me to cover the used card I bought, because I think a lot of people will be buying used. And I'll be honest, I had been watching 3090s drip below $1,200 for months. And the funny thing is, the more prices crashed, the less likely I was to buy one aggressively because, well, I think the prices are just going to keep going down. But eventually, a month ago, I did find a seller who was willing to accept an $800 offer on a model of the 3090 that I was really curious to get my hands on. And another important thing about this seller, he was willing to give me a bit of details about how it was used, including pictures. And it was clear that, well, this card was used for mining. It was not by some amateur. And it was only mined on for about 6 months in a temperature-controlled room at a constant voltage, which, again, I have to emphasize this. This is better for a card than gaming, where you'll have fluctuating temperatures and voltages all over the place, doing expansion stress on the card throughout its life, a constant voltage and temperature. The card can last a very long time, and it looks like it's brand new. No kidding. It looks like an open box model. There's not a single piece of dust on it, and there's not a single dent. And so, yeah, I think this is an important lesson to give to you guys. Don't worry about if your card is a used mining card, unless it's like a really old HBM model, like a Vega card that's been mining for 5 years. What you want to look for is a seller that looks like they took care of the card, looks like they were willing to take 1 minute to take a dust buster and an alcohol swab and clean it up for presentation, because that also means they probably took the time to take care of it while it was mining and are willing to talk to you. I would avoid the sellers on eBay that have cards literally covered in dust and debris saying, oh, well, that's normal for a used card, because if they couldn't take 1 minute to clean it up to sell it, I doubt they took good care of the card. But otherwise, you shouldn't be afraid to buy used mining cards. And outside of that, well, what do I think of the 3090? Actually, the first thing I did once I got it was change the 1050 watt 80 plus gold power supply in my benchmarking station next to me here, because the 3090 was making it shut down when I booted up Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, which I will say that again. Make sure you've got a good power supply if you're going to get a Lovelace card later this year, because the spikes in amperage and voltage really are an issue for the cheaper made models. I don't want to get into which model it was, because it's actually a brand a lot of people like, but I don't want to make that be the focus of this video. What I will say is I had a leftover backup 1200 watt Corsair 80 plus Platinum that's been running the 3090 fine in the benchmarking station. And actually my small form factor 80 plus Platinum Corsair has been running it fine as well in my workstation. So you don't need a 1200 watt. You just need a good power supply above 750 watts for a card like this. And, you know, it performs how you would expect it to. In 4K, it's almost 40% faster than my overclocked 3070, and I've actually been running it at 90% power with an overclock that allows it to roughly perform a little bit above a stock 3090 while using less energy for the total system power than a 3080, and I'm quite happy with this outcome. The thing is, well, honestly, not that great in 1080p, kind of a waste of money. RDNA 2 is really where you should go if you're a 1080p gamer, but outside of that, it's been great for my workloads, and it is, you know, at least in numbers, a tier or two better than my 3070, even with the power limit that I put on top of it with a bit of an overclock. And so overall, I regret nothing. And as we watch these cards go to lower prices on the used market, undoubtedly you're going to see 3080s probably drift below $600 pretty consistently, and 3090s below $800. Don't be afraid to buy them. Just make sure you get the right model and you know what you're getting into. And as long as those cards are out there selling, they're going to be a problem for Nvidia launching the RTX 4070 and the 4080, which I'm a creator. I don't regret that I paid $800 a month ago to get something that's maybe, I don't know, 10 to 30% weaker than an RTX 4070 early, because I got it early, I use it for work, it's already made a big difference in my workloads, and it has double the RAM probably than what the 4070 will have, or at least it will have more RAM. Even if Nvidia used GA10 or AD103 for the 4070, that still means it would have less RAM than my 3090, and so I'm happy with my purchase. And this is a problem for Nvidia though. And I suspect there will be a lot of other happy people that bought up new and used Ampere cards this month that no longer have a need to buy the 4070. But I also suspect a lot of people are just going to keep waiting because they don't want to get a last-gen product. And this is going to be a problem for Nvidia launching the 4080 and the 4070, which let me get to that part of the video now. Now, before I get into my opinion about what Nvidia is very likely to do in my estimation with the 4080 and the 4070, let me be very clear with you about what literally the situation is. Nvidia has literally told their partners Lovelace is launching in October, and they have, as close as you can get to 100% confirmed, the 4090 will be at least one of the cards launching in that month already, but they're considering launching the 4080 and the 4070 this year. So what's going on? AIBs are scrambling to sell as much as they can this month in August while the getting is good before they get too close to when Nvidia has indicated they'll announce. And when will Nvidia announce Lovelace? Well, I mean, if you look at what Nvidia did with Ampere, you can see a situation where they dragged the thing out, right? They announced A100, and then they did a special address, and then they finally announced it, but it was kind of a paper launch. It was dragged out, and it was dragged out because that was when there wasn't a mining crash going on. Nvidia wanted to get people super hyped up, build up pent-up demand, have it hard for people to get it at first, and then make people just impulse buy everything because they needed to sell a lot of Ampere cards after the previous generation Turing didn't sell as well as they were hoping following a mining crash. But then, think about that. Turing launched in the middle of a mining crash, just like Lovelace is about to. And if you look it up, Turing actually had its professional announcement and gaming announcement very close to each other and very close to when they actually launched the cards. And, well, I think we're just seeing history repeat itself a bit, or at least rhyming with Lovelace. You know, Nvidia is going to announce Lovelace, both professional and gaming, close to each other and pretty close to when it actually launches because they need time to get rid of old cards in a mining crash just like they did with Turing. And so that means Nvidia is going to be a bit flexible about when they launch the 4080 and the 4070, even if they know they have to launch it by GTC in September, which is what I would say. They'll definitely announce it by then. If they need to wait, they will wait until GTC to announce it. But if they're getting indications that stuff is selling through finally and they're ready to go, well, I'm sure they can just throw a special address together in a week and announce it at the beginning of September instead of the middle or late September. And so those are the facts. Let me get into my opinion. My opinion is that Nvidia is very likely to at least intentionally leak or paper launch the 4080 and the 4070 at least by the end of November. And that's because AMD is launching RDNA 3 in November based on what I'm told. And so I think Nvidia wants to take the spotlight, at least take the crown briefly, if not completely, if RDNA 3 doesn't beat it in October with the 4090. And then, well, the 4090 is just above all of Ampere's cards, way above Ampere cards performance. They can just let that sit there. And then once RDNA 3 starts launching, well, if they've sold through their Ampere inventory, I think they'll do a full 4080 and 4070 launch by the end of October. I think they would. But if they haven't sold through all of their old inventory, and maybe they won't, it's very likely they won't have, I think they'll do a paper launch of the 4080 and the 4070 near RDNA 3 and, launch just like Ampere, just like 100 cards of each. They'll sell out, people will feel disappointed, and then Nvidia will go, well, we did just cut prices again on Ampere graphics cards if you want to buy those up. Don't buy AMD, buy these discount Ampere cards, and they'll direct their fans to do that while keeping the 4080 and the 4070 fresh in the back of everyone's minds, so the people who might go, oh, I'm just going to buy RDNA 3 because there's no 4070, they'll go, well, there kind of is a 4070. Maybe if I wait a little longer, I can get that next week instead of buying AMD now. That is what I think Nvidia is going to do. Nvidia is trying to, and they're helping their AIBs do it, get rid of as much stock as they can right now through August. But after that, I have indications that AMD and Nvidia are going to go, the prices are what they are. We're just going to have to wait, not launch our mid-range, and let old stock sell out. And then in October, the 4090 launches, and the 4080 and the 4070 will probably at least heavily leak, a controlled leak by Nvidia, or paper launch next to RDNA 3 so they can steal some of the limelight and stop people from buying what AMD has because they'll have a next-gen answer. But those 4080s and those 4070s, those will not be in high volume until they get through a lot of their old Ampere stock. That is, of course, unless AMD were to launch the RX 7600 XT Navi 33 this year. But all indications I have are that they're holding that for laptop and other markets next year before they bring it to desktop, because they also know that there's a lot of last-gen stock to go through as well, and it affects them. And yeah, that's about all I have to say in this video. I thought this was an important update to let you guys know about what's going to keep happening with pricing and when you can expect to get not just the 4090, but also the 40 and the 4070, and kind of how AMD's responding to, which, yeah, I'm going to have RDNA 3 videos coming soon. And I actually have another update on some Intel stuff I've discovered that is just, I just didn't want to cover Intel this week because there's so much Intel stuff I've been covering, but I can't look away. There's some new stuff I have that I think you guys got to know about. But that's going to have to do it in another video. Make sure you subscribe to the Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel and ring the bell button so you don't miss those upcoming videos about Intel Alchemist and AMD RDNA 3. And also, if you have the extra money, consider supporting our sponsors, supporting us on Patreon, where you'll get early ad-free access to Broken Silicon, the ability to ask me and guest questions, get exclusive podcasts like Die Shrink. Another one comes out only to patrons at the end of this week. And there's a whole Discord channel waiting to talk to you. I'm in that Discord as well. So, yep, all of that is out there if you want to support the channel. But otherwise, thank you for watching.